You know, yesterday we hit the 3-year mark since the SARS-CoV-2 pandemic first hit Idaho. Now in year 4, so the novelty of the novel coronavirus is kind of worn off for a lot of people. But the pushback against anything COVID-related, which is anything but novel, continues. Today, the Senate debated Senate Bill 1130, the Coronavirus Stop Act, which would stop any public and private entity from discriminating against anyone not vaccinated against COVID-19. You couldn't be fired for not getting it. You couldn't be required to get one to get hired. You couldn't be stopped from going into any venue or business because you don't have one. This is a redo of a very similar bill from last year, which was called the Coronavirus Pause Act. Now we're going around to stopping it. This time around, they took out the sunset clause and the $1,000 penalty. It would be now enforceable by the Attorney General. Well, during today's debate, Republican Senator Ben Adams, the bill's co-sponsor, referenced our founding fathers, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, and a shining city on a hill, all of which centered around liberty, which the senator said we lost during the early days of the pandemic.
Our legal system screeched to a halt, allowing for gross despotism by governments across America. Churches were closed by the state. Gatherings were criminalized.
Mr. Adams, you need to kind of bring it back to the subject of the bill. Terms like gross despotism make everybody a little itchy. Okay, so
it should make them itchy, Mr. President.
Okay, well, in your debate in the future, then keep it to the bill.
Mr. President, can we go to
Mr. President, please go to ease.
Senator Gordy's.
Yeah, kind of moment there. Don't know what they left the chamber to talk about, but they did come back, and, well, Senator Adams would come back and talk about the introduction of the COVID vaccine, President Biden's vaccine mandate for companies with more than 100 employees, which happened in November of 2021. An order which was quickly stayed, by the way, by the U.S. Supreme Court and then withdrawn by the president 2 months later. And that was a decision lauded by the state of Idaho, which joined a lawsuit to prevent such mandates. Senator Adams wasn't the only one to get gavelled today, by the way. In speaking against the bill, Democratic Senator Sen Taylor talked about the decisions regarding masks, social distancing, and vaccines, whatever it took to tamp down the spread of the virus. Decisions made on the fly, he said, in the midst of a whirlwind with the best available expert information. But there was something else that stuck out to him about this bill.
You know, we talk about the sacred autonomy of what we can and cannot put in our bodies. Yet I watch this body continue to erode the sacred autonomy of people in Idaho.
Senator Taylor,
An objection.
that would be out of bounds. So,
I apologize.
Yeah, Speaker Bedke a little bit, well, not Speaker Bedke anymore, excuse me, Lieutenant Governor Bedke, a little quick with the gavel today. Senator Taylor asked how requiring a vaccine to get a job is different than a negative drug test to get a job. Other senators were unapologetic about their support for this bill, other than to say they're sorry it didn't do more.
And that is that I would expand it to include all vaccinations that are authorized under emergency use authorization, because actually these vaccines have not been proven to be safe or efficacious for what they propose to treat.
Senator Hernan did not reveal a source of his medical information during today's debate. Meanwhile, Democratic Senator James Ruckty felt this bill was anti-business.
And so this feels a little bit like we're meeting alleged despotism with despotism. Here we are making a rule which won't be temporary from the governor, but will be permanent in nature and will tell our businesses what they can and cannot do.
See what Senator Ruckty did there, taking that despotism, hurling it back right at Senator Adams. All right, well, Senate Bill 1130 passed the Senate on a party line vote, 28-7. It now moves to the House, just like it did last year, almost to the day. On March 15th, it happened. So what happened with last year's bill? Why are we doing this again? Well, after it cleared both chambers, Senate Bill 1381 was vetoed by Governor Brad Little, who said it would have significantly expanded government overreach into the private sector, saying he believes businesses should be left to making decisions about management of their operations and employees with limited interference. The Senate couldn't come up with the votes last year to overturn that veto. So will that change this year? Senator Adams told us today he felt the bill carries a light touch of government, balancing a person's rights and the rights of a business owner. He said this bill doesn't tell businesses what to do, just what they can't do. And he thinks this time on his, well, I guess I should say this time is on his side because it's time that's on his side. Last year, the pandemic was still too, well, novel, too close to it. We still have, well, we now have different information about the pandemic today. We wanted to ask about specifics about that information as well, but Senator Adams was busy on the floor and in committee today, too busy to connect with us on camera.